Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ahdurin region. I'm your host, Ahdurin himself, back with another episode of the Ace Attorney series. It's time for a confession. If you have no idea what's going on or who this person is, check out the playlist in the description down below for all the previous episodes. While you're down there, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things you ought to do when supporting a YouTube channel. As we get started, get going, get ready for a confession. Apparently, Marshall is going to confess to everything, as I say it in a deep voice that sounds semi-ominous. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. Well, that's interesting.
So the supposed victim was really you?
But there's still one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be?
Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. I'm just trying to go back through the case situation. Yeah, definitely way too much blood there. There's something messed up here. All right, let's get through this confession. As you know, we press everything.
Hold it!
When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident.
2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day.
Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? That's a good point. When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. I don't think I quite have his gravel today, but interesting. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation, right? That was Goodman. Why does he care so much about it? That probably has something to do with, if I had to take a stab at it, probably something to do with the Sky family. That day was my last chance. That's why I... And he stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. Okay, sure.
So you did it to fool the security camera.
And the detective ID's card.
I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filing out that lost item report. That seemed really slow to me, the text box. Anyway, I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall.
So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight.
What do you mean, partner?
I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprint. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that lock yourself.
But, oh, I was about to say Marshall was going to say that. But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That doesn't seem right. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. Right. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off. Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person.
Well, that's an understatement.
Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID.
I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year.
When did Edgeworth get so much influence? That's a valid question. What happened that gave Edgeworth all these rights and privileges and everything? Anyway, he threw himself at me, and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I'm not sure what to say about this.
So you knocked Officer Meekins out and...
Managed to escape. Okay. Right. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I don't know whose voice that was. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone to plan, no footage would have been left.
However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins.
If someone was in the security room and I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby.
So what you're saying is on that day...
There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner.
So you stole the evidence from the locker?
Actually, no, I didn't. What?
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone.
What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence?
It's, still missing, Your Honor.
Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. What? Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Phoenix, please do, because player controlling character, does not know what's going on. Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer, this is no small offense.
Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary.
Not that salary cuts are even a valid solution, but sure, yes, Edgeworth, I'm with you here. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with.
The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? Okay, so that says new statement. All right, let's press this one. But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room.
Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence.
I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it?
I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Phoenix, we're asking the same questions here. Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Oh, are we getting to the point where I understand things again? All right, let's do this. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I better take another look at the files. I had to do it that day. Okay, we're going back to the beginning here. All right, so obviously it's on that... Let's see, wait a minute. There. On this statement here, let's see, which thing is it? That's the autopsy report. That's not it. That's not it. La-di-da-di-da. We're gonna find it sooner or later. I probably could have just... SL9 incident. Let's check this out just to make sure. Joe Dark, serial murderer. He was sentenced to death. Victims here. Marshall. I'm guessing Neil Marshall has something to do with this. Witnesses exist as well. You got a bunch of folks here, the skies, and everyone. Let's present this.
Objection!
Music stop, that's a good sign. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. Cactus juice? Anyway, I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man?
Neil Marshall.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
What? A prosecutor?
Must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award.
Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did.
That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands.
But what's his relation to you?
He was my brother. Whoa. Well, he was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then deputy chief of police. I'm going to make the excuse that I can't get his voice probably because Marshall's being real emotional right now. All right. Clear his throat. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public records. I hope I'm being loud enough. It's just dawned on me that I can't. The way that I have it set up, I can't see the volume. I just look at it real briefly. So I hope I'm loud enough with, Mr. Calm and Dark, cool, coordinated.
What do you mean?
I know he's loud enough. My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight.
And that's it?
That's your reason for your insane actions? I was going to say accusations, but there's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. It's probably the loudest I'm going to make Marshall.
Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence.
Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Right, so far so good.
Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department.
Chance? It's gotta be more than just that. To be honest, it's gotta be more than just that. Probably.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one.
Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye.
Objection!
Hold up, wait a minute. But wait. A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial.
Objection!
Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today.
But
there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department.
seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner.
All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. if you have a response. Make it a single word or less.
That's not a word.
I rest my case.
It's the first time I think we've heard an actual stereotypical like line here.
You know, I rest my case.
It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. Sorry, that's a word. There's no room for doubt.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department.
There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security cameras tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
Your Honor, wait.
Emma? Oh, good. Phoenix is also confused. What?
The defense has an objection. A scientific objection.
Get him, Emma. Let's go.
Right?
What do you mean, right? I mean, yes. Yeah.
Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian?
Am I at this point? Her big sister's the one on trial, so I'm going to say technically. In a sense.
Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking for is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3.
Oh, that's nice of Edgeworth.
I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out that the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings.
Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were in that file.
But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint.
You mean the traces of blood found in Detective Gumshoe's locker?
But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again.
So, did you find something? You ran there? Is it that far?
No.
What?
Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
Is that all?
Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student.
I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
All right. Oh boy. All right. That was 3 minutes? That was not 3 minutes. Anyway, let's crack the bones. We gotta figure this out.
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright, with regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use, but still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If I needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? I'm gonna object, but I have no idea what it is. I'm assuming there's something missing. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans?
Something's missing in the floor plans? Can I look at the video again? I gotta be missing something obvious here. I figured it out. There goes Marshall. I'm gonna let this keep going, even though it's clear that, I think you guys can probably guess what it is. But it's also covering Gumshoe's locker right now. So we go back over here. He's down on the ground. You kind of like slide underneath. Put your stuff in there and walk out. Yep. Okay. But the big thing that's missing is right there. I see what it is now. It's the Blue Badger. What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. Let's just plop him right here. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well?
Well, what? Ugh.
That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? Here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. We found a lane.
So that means, just what exactly does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me. I didn't put it there.
Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically.
Emma, how'd you... Weren't you on the... All right, never mind.
On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker.
So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in.
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
May sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. I assume we're gonna get there at some point. All right, someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
Objection!
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim.
Objection!
Hold up, boy. The music's going. We got this going. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker.
Objection!
So then, assuming this murder you preferred really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proved when it occurred. When did the first incident occur?
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in the evidence room.
That's right. The blood mark on this locker proves it.
Very well. Then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented.
Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that, and I actually know what this is.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place?
That would be... Where is it? Here we go. The ID card record. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
An ID card? Oh, the ID card record.
Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would have been 4:40 p. Oh, this is a joke.
Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done?
I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy.
Drop the act, witness.
Doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out that it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it.
I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear from the luminal test that blood was there. Oh wait, this is Edward. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood.
That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murder.
I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining, straight sevens. Talk about a lucky number.
But wait, that doesn't make any sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777777.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP.
I don't know why I said it like that.
Find out whose ID number is 7777.
Oh, okay, I didn't even get to that. I just went straight past that.
That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least, at present.
What? Explain yourself, son.
The ID numbers straight sevens belong to someone with the rank of captain or higher. Someone who was a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity.
Objection!
What? That's ridiculous. Just how...
I'm not finished talking yet, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority.
If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted,
An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. Okay.
Objection!
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question.
Yes.
No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana?
Objection!
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her ID number. And it's not straight sevens.
Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident.
the SL9 incident.
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor?
I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth.
2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time,
Occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana, I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. Before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, just what are you saying?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you didn't...
I don't have to, Officer Marshall.
why won't you answer him?
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But, Lana... Even if it involved forging evidence. This is shocking in all regards. See, that's what I'm talking about.
No. No!
Yo, this is the loudest I think I've heard the audience.
Order, order, order! Order!
As remark caused such a stir, the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. To be continued. All right, we're leaving us off on this one right here. Loud crowd noises to end us off today. Nice little music here. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, watching, and supporting in any way, shape, or form that you do. Tomorrow, we continue. I thought the case would end today, but apparently not. This is a much longer game, or longer case than I thought it would be. Until tomorrow, continuing the case, take care.